Heidi-ho neighbors, Radio Goji here, and welcome to a toy review, or rather, the beginning of a series of toy reviews that's been quite a while in the making. Please excuse the empty table for now while I introduce basically what I'm going to be talking about here. Today I'm going to start taking my long-awaited look at the Transformers Generations Titans Return line. This is a toy line or subline of of Transformers Generations that ran basically last year. I did collect a few of these about, I'd say, starting around May or June of last year, and I did keep alluding to these reviews, but they kept being put off because at the time I was planning on doing these with Jordan, and in all honesty, he isn't available for most of the time to do these. So I just kept putting it off and putting it off, and more recently I started getting more of these, so I've gotten more of a motivation to make this. So what better time than now to at this point to start doing these videos. So Titans Return is mostly based off of the Headmasters, which was a sect of Transformers that came out around the time the short-lived Season 4 came up on the cartoon. And I say short-lived Season 4 because it was basically just a three-part opening episode, and then it was promptly canceled. But the Headmasters are smaller Transformer robots that become the heads of larger Transformer robots. And Titans Return, like I said, does basically base itself around that with these little Titan Master figures, as they're called. Let me focus on this guy right here. See if it will focus. Will you focus? Yes, you will. That's wonderful, because you're supposed to be the focus of this. So you have all of these little guys here. These will turn into heads of other Transformers robots. And that's the basic gimmick of this particular subline. The Titan Masters themselves were available either with some of the larger figures that they could turn into the heads of, or, like this one, they were sold separately, along with a vehicle or equivalent that they could ride around on, combine with to make another alt form, and then from there transform into kind of a weapon mode for larger figures, kind of like the Target Masters around the same time. I'm not familiar with a lot of these characters. I mean, I don't consider myself to be like a Transformers expert. I don't know if I mentioned that in some of my old Transformers videos, but I do know quite a bit about G1 or Generation 1, whatever you want to call it. I have seen the entirety of the Generation 1 cartoon as well as the animated movie, and but a lot of these characters were featured. Like when I got to Season 4. That's when they introduced a lot of characters I don't really remember a lot of, and in Japan they actually went and had their own cartoon called Transformers Headmasters, which has a bunch of characters I know nothing about, and that's what a lot of these Titan Masters are based off of in any case. But in this video, because the Titan Masters are the smaller of the figures, I'm basically going to be starting on the small end, working my way up from what I have. As I get more, I will do videos for those as well, because I'm still kind of collecting from this particular line. Just not the entire line, but just ones with characters and designs that I particularly like. But I'm going to start off with the Titan Master figures that were sold separately, because you start off with the Titan Masters, and then going from smaller to bigger, you have Legends Class, Deluxe Class, Voyager Class, Leader Class, and Titan Class. So, let's start off with this Titan Master here, and I'll explain as I go. This Titan Master is called, at least the packaging calls him, Clobber. But this is actually that's like a rename for this character. This character is actually supposed to be Grimlock. And I got Grimlock because who doesn't like Grimlock? If you don't know anything about Transformers, or don't know, because I'm fairly sure Grimlock is a very recognizable character, even for those who are mostly unfamiliar with the series, but Grimlock is the leader of the Dinobots, who are a sect of the Autobots that transform into dinosaurs. Lord only knows why they made him a Titan Master in this, but it probably has something to do with the fact that there are other Titan Masters, like Overboard, who is supposed to be Overkill, who had the similar mold, but then because of the way that the vehicle / equivalent turned out, they decided to make a Grimlock out of it. So this is your basic Titan Master figure. This is, you know, the Grimlock one. I'm going to call him Grimlock because that's what he's supposed to be. They have different molding, like the figures themselves will have different molding, you know, on their heads and their bodies and whatnot, and they'll all look different, but they basically have the same, the same structure and mechanic and everything. You have a small head, which is on a ball joint, so it can turn all the way around and stuff like that. You have your arms, which are also on ball joints at the shoulder. And while they don't have elbows, they can move out a little bit, and they can, you know, move up and down. And you've got the legs, which on this particular Grimlock are kind of loose at certain points. But you have a hip joint, and you have a knee joint, so you can do stuff like this. And the legs all have holes in the bottom of the feet, and they also have this notch on here. I shouldn't really call it a notch, because a notch kind of goes inward rather than outward, but this kind of little tab, which will be used and everything. But pretty much like outside of like some detail molding, all of the Titan Master, all of the Titan Masters are pretty much structured the same. They also, considering the Titan Masters, basically supposed to be like the headmasters of lore. I don't know. They can turn into giant head modes. So all you really have to do for each of these is just have their heads, or their arms down to their sides, and then just flip up the legs like so. Line it up a little bit better than I had it there, and then flip them around like this, and there's a Grimlock head. Isn't that something? Now, despite the fact that this doesn't come with a figure or anything like that, all of the Titan Masters throughout the entirety of the line are universally compatible with any Deluxe, Voyager, or Leader class figures. So for demonstrative purposes, making an early appearance before the video I have planned for him, this is Hot Rod. And Hot Rod has his own Titan Master head, but you can take the head off, and there's a basically a universal port there. And just some heads are easy to put into some ports than others, but there you go. Now you got Hot Rod with a Grimlock head. How cool is that? I'm going to put Hot Rod back off to the side, put his head back on, because I'm going to be using him for more demonstrations as time goes on in the video here. So let's turn him back into his little robot self. I'm just going to kind of put him here. I know he's barely visible here, but trust me on this. So, like I said, each of these standalone Titan Masters will come with a vehicle or equivalent. And usually when I mean equivalent, I mean an animal friend of some sort. So, Grimlock actually has an animal friend. I don't know what this is supposed to be called. It looks like a dragon. It really doesn't have much of a name, so I'm just going to call him Dragon Friend. Dragon Friend doesn't really have a lot of articulation himself. He has these wings on ball joints, and yes, these are supposed to be wings. They don't really look like wings. They just kind of look like bits of plastic on there, but, you know, he has feet or legs on a ball joint, no knees or anything like that. You can move his head up and down and all that. And there is a way for you to basically put Grimlock on here. You see this little space here actually has like the pegs for the holes in his feet, and also has the notch for the tab there. So you take Grimlock, I usually put his arms out for this, and then he'll just fit onto that hole there, and it'll fit really well as well. I say as he immediately falls off this thing, because I'm doing this at a weird angle, just to keep it on camera. Sorry about that. I'm going to take this off camera so I can do this properly. There we go. I got him to stay now. And because his hip joint is really, really weak, I do like to kind of put the wings back a little bit just to give him a little bit more leverage. Make him look like he's got like reins or something on that. So there's Grimlock flying around on his dragon friend. And, you know, there are some obvious things that kind of point toward what the alt mode is going to be. Like, that tail doesn't look suspicious at all, but sometimes I like to put the tail up just to kind of give him a little seat. Something like that. But kind of takes away from the aesthetic of the dragon. Anyway, speaking of alt modes, or alternate modes, I take a lot of my the terminology from other Transformers videos and Transformers wikis and stuff. Like I said, I'm not a super aficionado when it comes to this stuff. I just kind of pick up from other sources. But to combine into the alt mode here, we're going to take Grimlock. We're going to lay him face up. There's a hole in the back of the dragon. His head will actually fit in that. And then there's a hole at the end of the tail. The tab on the feet will actually fit into that. Just kind of got to move the tail into place there. So that's all good to go. Make sure his arms are still out, by the way. Take the wings and basically fold them over the Grimlock's body there, and then these will tab into slots on the end of the, well, what is now an obvious head. Just kind of squeeze those together to keep them in place. Rotate these legs around, and then the dragon head becomes a tail. And now you know why they decided to make a Grimlock version of this, because it's a T-Rex. Like I said, this is a repaint of another one. I think there was another repaint as well, based off of someone else. But they decided to make a Grimlock version. And this does remind me a lot of Grimlock. I mean, you even have like the little Autobots emblem on his head there. He's definitely got the look down. The color is a little bit like that too, because I recognize, like, the yellow and the dark gray go with. They're very reminiscent of Grimlock, in my opinion. But that looks really, really cool. I like that a lot. And I'm glad that I got it. Now, as I said before, this alt mode can change further into what I'm just going to call, for simplicity's sake, a Target Master mode. Target Masters, like I said, are kind of like Headmasters. They were released around the same time. And they are basically smaller robots that turned into weapons for the other ones. So all you have to do for Target Master mode on this guy is you got to swing his legs down, and there are these little tabs and slots here. They'll just kind of peg in like so. This little peg is going to come down perpendicular to the body, and then the head/tail, the dragon head/tail, will rotate all the way. And you've got yourself a gun / T-Rex on its back. The Target Master modes are not these figures' strong suits, if I'm going to be brutally honest. Now, I do at least like this one because you've got what looks like, if I can get to focus again. Come on, I can force you to focus. Focus there. There we go. You've got like this, it looks like a big old laser cannon barrel, and then like two smaller gun barrels on the outsides, and then you even have the dinosaur arms kind of make iron sights for it, which is kind of cool. But when you look at it from any other angle, it is definitely just a T-Rex laying on its back with a peg sticking out. But any larger figure can wield these. Some can wield them better than others, but Hot Rod is shown to be able to hold them fairly competently. So here is Hot Rod with his Grimlock gun. Yay! So there you go. But yeah, other than like maybe one or two, I'm not super fond of these Target Master modes. But anyway, let's move on to the next one. I have 6 of these total. But these are just ones that I kind of picked out because I like the way they were designed. But most of these, I think, are just based off of old Headmasters as well. This is Terri-Bull, spelled T-E-R-R-I hyphen and then the word bull, like the animal. Terri-Bull is a Decepticon. He is based off of an old Headmaster whose body was made out of a robotic bull. We won't see any actual robotic bulls in this video because this Terri-Bull doesn't come with one, even though they kept the name. But I digress. So the head mode, the bar and the knee joint is really tight on this one. But here's the head mode for Terri-Bull, which actually looks really, really cool if I can get it to focus properly. There we go. I like this head sculpt a lot. Usually with Transformers heads, I'm usually more partial to the ones that don't have, like, visible mouths. It's kind of off-putting to me sometimes when they have them. I mean, with some characters it's okay, especially if they're characters I'm already fond of, like Hot Rod or Ironhide or someone like that. But most of the Transformers I like don't have, like, visible mouths, so it is kind of weird when they do show up, you know, when I see... It isn't kind of weird at all. In fact, it's kind of like 50-50 as to whether or not they have mouths, but usually I do tend to like the ones that have, like, the mouth plates over them or whatever, and Terri-Bull's a good example of that. Now, instead of having a bull for a vehicle or equivalent or animal friend, he's got this tank here. This tank is pretty neat. I like the way it looks. There's no wheels on the treads or anything like that, so they just kind of slide around rather than roll, but it does have this... these cannons on the front. The turret also doesn't turn or anything like that because of how this is built. But there are 4 blaster cannons that can go up and down like that. So put Terri-Bull into his tank. As you can see, the at the end of this inside the turret there are the 2 footholes in there. So I just put his arms up and just kind of like put him in like a sitting position like this. And then just kind of put him in legs first into the turret. Kind of push it into place so that it holds in place there. And there you have Terri-Bull in his tank. And that's pretty much all there is to that. Now for the alternate form for him, we're going to take him out of his seat. Basically lay him flat like this. The tank is going to turn upside down like this, and the treads are actually going to break off at certain places and rotate down to make, as you can see, like wings here. And there's also a basically the front of a jet or front of a plane that kind of swoops out here. Has the Decepticon symbol right there. And then you take Terri-Bull, put him face up, and then he's actually going to where this little cavity is, where the nose cone came out. We're going to actually put him in there, and there's actually a hole in the that cockpit area there where his head's going to fit. And then just kind of like lay him out into that hole there. And also his legs kind of make tail fins here. And you got this groovy little jet mode here. Exact same cannons. They can just aim downward now, so it's kind of like a heavy bombardment sort of, not like a bomber, but like a heavy cannon jet or heavy cannon plane of some kind. I don't know if those are things. They could be things. Wouldn't surprise me if that is a thing, but very cool looking jet mode. The Target Master mode, all you do is flip the wings back up, and then the peg is here, and then that's it. This is one of the Target Master. Now, like I said, I did have my gripes with the Grimlock one, but at least it looked like a handheld gun or something like that from a certain angle. This does not. This just looks like a weird vehicle with the cannons on the bottom. And I'm just gonna have Hot Rod hold him for a second, just so you can see what it looks like when a figure wields it. I know that, you know, Hot Rod's an Autobot, but it's whatever. This doesn't look like a, you know, like a weapon you would expect someone to have. Like, I'm not a fan of that. But the main vehicle mode and the alt mode are pretty cool. So those are the 2 that I had actually gotten last year over time. And then these last 4 I actually got within the past couple weeks, fairly recently here. The next one we have is Shuffler. Shuffler is an Autobot, and his thing is that he's also based off of a Headmaster from either the American cartoon or the main Headmaster's cartoon. And his thing was that, much like Terri-Bull, he combined with a robot animal, in his case an elephant. Fun fact, I actually got Shuffler because I thought he was going to be representative of one of Blaster's cassettes. I mean, I knew that he wasn't going to be a cassette being a standalone Titan Master, but I am planning on getting Blaster and the 2 Legend class figures that make up his sets. Basically, Stripes and Rewind. I have Stripes now. Still need to get Rewind and Blaster. But I knew that there was a Titan Master that kind of went under that category too. And I thought it might be Shuffler, because, I think it's Shuffle, yeah, Shuffler. Because, you know, shuffling, like, kind of shuffling songs, like on a CD. But, no, it actually ends up that one is Ramhorn, who is a rhino, not an elephant. But Ramhorn is actually a remold of Shuffler. So I'm just going to say, okay, I got Shuffler, I don't need Ramhorn, so I'm not going to get Ramhorn. But it was a little disappointing when I found that out. But yeah, so anyway, here's the robot mode, here's the head mode. Head mode looks really cool on him. And his vehicle thing is this groovy looking tank. You're going to see a lot of tanks in this. Again, no wheels on the treads or anything like that, just kind of slides along rather than rolls. But you got this big cannon up the front, and you've also got this turret with a couple cannons on there. This actually does turn. It can turn 360 degrees, actually. And Shuffler just kind of stands on the back here. So that's how he rides his little tank. Just kind of stands on the back. Attach the feet to the pegs. This is one of the ones where the pegs are actually pretty tight. So that's a good thing. It doesn't fall off or anything like that. So he's on the back of a neat little tank there. Now for the combined alt mode, what we're going to do is we're going to obviously take him off of there. And we're just going to take Shuffler and turn him into his head mode. Because he's really not going to be part of the combination per se. It's just that at the bottom of the tank there's this cavity here, which is just the right size for, you know, a Titan Master in its head mode to fit. So he's just going to fit down there. Now we're going to take these treads. They're going to rotate down like this. The front cannon barrel is going to click down like that. And then the turret is going to turn like this, ratchet down, and then the cannon on the turret is going to come up like this. And it's in elephant mode. Again, in the original cartoon, Shuffler did combine with an elephant to make his robot form, but yeah, that's just kind of playing upon that. Unlike Terri-Bull, who just had a tank that turned into a jet. But I like this elephant mode. Looks very, very nice. Now for the Target Master mode, and this is like the only Target Master mode that I think looks like legitimately cool. We're going to basically flip them upside down. We're going to move the hind legs back up into their tread position. The tail/barrel is actually going to make the grip. And then we're going to take the elephant head, pop that back down, and twist it around, and keep the trunk out like this. Now, this doesn't really look much like, you know, a standard weapon that, like a gun or anything like that, but if you look at the molding, this is actually meant to be like a handheld multi-rocket or missile launcher, like Macross missiles. Missile pods on there, and that actually looks really, really cool. So here's, I'm going to bring Hot Rod back up so we can hold that. And yeah, that looks awesome. I like that a lot. And it doesn't look too obviously, unless you really look closely, it doesn't look too obviously like it's supposed to be something else, like, you know, the T-Rex on his back or something like that. Alright, next one up is the last Decepticon I own of these. This is Apeface. Apeface, again, was a headmaster on the show, and he was another one who combined with a robot animal, in this case an ape or a gorilla, judging by his name. He has a very, very, very noticeable black and purple color scheme here that I kind of like, and the head mode looks similarly awesome as well. Kind of like an evil Optimus Prime, I think, in a way. And his vehicle is actually an animal friend. This gorilla-looking guy, or an ape, or whatever you want to call it. I guess ape would be a relatively blanketing term, but it looks kind of like more like a gorilla than anything. I'm going to call him Gorilla Friend. You know, kind of like Dragon Friend. And Gorilla Friend has a place where Apeface can easily just kind of stand in. If he can... Like, he'll go in there, but sometimes it takes a bit for me to get the pegs into the holes. Sorry. There we go. Now he's in there pretty good. So just kind of riding on the gorilla's back, and they're the best of friends. Now the transformation. Into the alt mode. So far we've had an animal that turns into another animal, a vehicle that turns into a vehicle, and a vehicle that turns into an animal. Well, now we have an animal that turns into a vehicle. So we've come in all kinds of different directions with these transformations. And it's actually similar to Terri-Bull, in that this does turn into a jet, but the transformation and the molding is just different enough for me to not count these as like a remold of the other one. So all you got to really do is just put the arms off to the sides, kind of put them down like this, and flip out the nose cone. And then Apeface kind of goes in, much like Terri-Bull did on his jet mode. And yeah, I think this looks a lot better. I mean, I still like Terri-Bull's jet mode, don't get me wrong, but this looks a whole lot better. It kind of reminds me of the Seekers a little bit. Or at least the way the Seekers kind of looked in the Cybertron games, War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron, where they have like the kind of the inverted wings like that. That looks really, really cool. And the Target Master mode really isn't all that bad either. Just gotta swing the arm/wing assemblies all the way to the front. Swing the peg down. And there you go. It still looks like it has just... It's like a big plane with a gun grip attached. But at least it has like these forward... There used to be thrusters and other forward-facing like gun barrels. So here's Hot Rod again, because I only decided to bring one figure down here. It probably would have made more sense for me to use a Decepticon figure, but I don't have any Decepticon figures that aren't like a Special Legends class figure that I kind of want to keep off camera until the reveal, or like a Leader class, which are really, really huge compared to this. But yeah, it doesn't look too bad, I don't think. It could be better. Alright, moving on to the next one. And the last two that I have are both, like I said, they are both Autobots. Here we have, this is Nightbeat. Nightbeat is, from what I understand, another Headmaster. I could be wrong about that. But yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say about him, because I don't know anything about his character. I do know that he really didn't show up in either cartoon. He didn't show up in either... you know, the short-lived season 4 of the American cartoon or the Headmasters cartoon. He mainly got a lot of his characterization and exposure through the old Marvel comic. So that's why Nightbeat is such a recognizable character to some. I didn't read the comic, so I didn't really know who he was until I kind of like skimmed through his Wikipedia, or not his Wikipedia article, but his Transformers Wiki article. But here's what his face looks like. In head mode, I don't like this head mode at all. He's perpetually screaming, and this is why I don't really like Transformers with visible mouths as much as ones without visible, because as if they get really expressive on the toys, and this is what you would expect, like there being like an alternate face if this was like a masterpiece or figure, or like an SH Figure Arts or something like that. This is like the alternate face that you would put on to make him look angry, rather than like the neutral face that would come on the figure by default. But no, this is the only face that he has, and it's very ugly and creepy, and I don't like it. But the vehicle's really cool. And that's the main reason why I picked him up, was because of the vehicle. Now, this is similar, again, to Terri-Bull, in that it's a... one mode is a jet and one mode is a tank, but it's kind of reversed. So the main vehicle mode is this jet. Although it is similarly set up. I mean, it's a different mold all around, but, you know, similar setup. Like, you have, like, the wing is actually part of the tread. Although the wings actually have little missiles in them, which is a nice touch. And, oddly enough, in order to put Nightbeat in here, he kind of fits in like this. If I can get him to... Because these pegs are actually really loose on this. And just kind of rides the jet like this. It's not necessarily the best way to ride your jet, but I don't know, who am I to judge? But yeah, that's how you get him to ride the jet. Now, to transform to the alternate vehicle, we're going to, much as you might expect, flip the wings up into the treads. The nose cone for the, I don't know if nose cone is the right term, cockpit nose, whatever you want to call it, the nose of the jet is going to basically rotate out and be replaced by this drill. I'm going to flip the whole thing over, and this yellow bit is going to flip up like this. Now, what you're supposed to do here is you're supposed to change Nightbeat into his head mode. And then, like, his Titan Master head is supposed to fit into this little box here. And then, like, the head mode will just, you know, rest in the rest of this. And for the longest time, when I just tried to, you know, fold him up in the head mode and just kind of force him in, he doesn't really like to fit in properly. And that's because the way that this box is set up, in order for him to really fit, you got to twist the Titan Master head the other way, because that's the only way he'll fit in, is by doing that. And even then, it's kind of awkward to put him in. So I actually, for fear of breaking it, after like many tries of trying to get this in, I actually looked up. I was actually on the Transformers wiki, believe it or not. And a good alternate method of getting him in is to basically just kind of put him in face first and face down. Just put his head in there. Then twist the body around. And then that will just kind of fit in. And then fold the legs up like that. And that is the fully combined drill tank mode, which actually does look cool. And the legs on the Titan Master do kind of look like extra cannons, so that kind of adds to the armaments on there. But drill tanks are cool, so that's why I got this. And the Target Master mode is that. That's all you do. And in all honesty, I don't really know how I feel about this. Because now you're just literally taking the vehicle and just putting a peg on it. And drills aren't really good guns. Unless, like, you know, you run up to them and just go like that. I don't know. Needless to say, the vehicle was the main reason that I got this. Because it does look cool. And last but not least, we have this one. He is another Autobot. And this one, the packaging calls him Loudmouth. But the actual character name is Siren. So it's like kind of like taking Grimlock and turning him into Clobber. They took Siren and turned him into Loudmouth. And I'm just going to call him Siren because that's his real name. I don't know anything about Siren. I think he may have some relation to Nightbeat, and I think he may also be... part of me wants to think that that he's a headmaster, but I think he actually may be part of the Protectobots. I don't remember all the Protectobots' names, and like I said, I've seen the show. I've seen all of the combiners in the show. And in all honesty, like, the only combiners, like, I really truly cared about, in all honesty, were Bruticus and Computron. And the only one, even then, the only group of combiners that I remember all of their names are the Combaticons. I don't remember all of the Protectobots' names. I think one of them was Hotspot. He was the fire engine. I think Siren may have been the police car, though. I don't know. I'll have to look that up later. Either way, Siren comes with what I'm assuming... It looks like a boat at first, but I think this might actually be like a futuristic, like, Cybertronian car. kind of like what a lot of the Season 3 folks were getting their alt modes from, like Blur and RC. We're getting like Cybertronian cars, so it very well could be that. You can't see any wheels on it or anything like that. But, you know, either it's that or it's a boat. I'm willing to go either way with it. It looks really nice and sleek, and he fits in rather easily. Also, if it's a boat, there's a hole in it, and that really doesn't do well for boats, but at least you can see where you're pegging the Titan Master in. So yeah, it looks like a standard, like I said, future car or boat. Very nice. For the alternate combined mode, we're going to take these red panels on the sides, and they're going to flip up all the way, turn the whole thing around, and then on the back there's this gun thing that turns up. And then much like Nightbeat, there is a little box or little cavity that the head goes into. And again, much like Nightbeat, it'll only... Oh, I forgot to show off his head mode. Here's Siren's head mode, by the way. And like the shades make me, or what make me think that he's a Protectobot. Sorry about that. Anyway, the best way to get him to fit in is by, again, rotating his head all the way, because that's the only way that it'll fit. But it does still fit in a lot easier. You don't have to like put him in a special way or anything like that. And this is like a tank or something like that. It actually reminds me, and I do apologize for bringing this up. Lord knows I didn't want to, but it does remind me of in Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, where the Trade Federation's battle droids had their like assault tank artillery things. That's what this reminds me of. But I'm going to stop drawing those conclusions because no one wants to be reminded of Star Wars Episode 1. But you got your little missiles on the front here. Yeah, got missiles, cannons here, and you can also count the, like I said, the Titan Master feet also kind of look like cannons there too. But yeah, again, I really like this vehicle mode. Very cool looking. And again, Target Master mode's kind of dumb. You basically flip up the red sections halfway, deploy the grip peg like that, put them into Hot Rod's hand, and bring Hot Rod up on the camera, wielding the new gun. It looks a little better than some of them have been. Certainly looks better than Nightbeat or I don't know, Terri-Bull. But at least you know you still got your missiles on there and all your cannons. So I don't know. Over-engineered guns are fun, I suppose. So those are all of the standalone Titan Masters I have. All in all, I really like the gimmick of it. I did think it was I mean, I will say it does seem like a little bit of a waste to have these sold separately, considering they're so small. And I mean, they do have a good amount of play to them. But in all honesty, the as I'm transforming these back off screen, for the gimmick, it really works a lot better if you have some of the bigger figures, and the bigger figures are a lot more fun to play with as well. But these are still fine for what they are. I'm not gonna knock them for that. But they in a way they do barely seem like Transformers. I mean, they transform and all that. It's just like they remind me of like the tiny Transformers I used to get when I was a kid, because our family didn't have a whole lot of money, and my brother and I would get Transformers every now and then. But because I mean, I'm not old enough to have watched them on the TV when they were on, but I rented them on video, and we got like the mini 4-packs of Transformers that like had extremely simple transformations, but we were happy with them. But that's what these remind me of. Just kind of the I'll just leave him as a dinosaur. They remind me of those kind of like small Transformers things, and they're nice enough to get if you can. I mean, they were cheap when they came out, but I can only imagine that nowadays they'd be a little bit more expensive because they're discontinued, and you got collectors that drive up the prices. But either way, this is just like the tip of the iceberg for what we have to look at with the series. And in the next series. It's gonna, and then the next video is gonna be another. It's gonna be another multi video with my Legends class figures. But you know, look forward to that. I know I certainly am. So until then, I've been Rado Goji, and I'll be here next time. Join me, won't you?